Hello everybody, hope you're doing okay. Welcome to a place called Tarrant Monkton in Dorset. Now I'm standing in the middle of a ford, so that only means one thing, doesn't it? Time to test the new version of the Nike Pegasus Trail 5 GORE-TEX. This year I've got them in an all white colourway. I thought I'd make a change for the black pairs that I normally get. So I thought I'd give the customary waterproof testing of the new version and compare them to the outgoing version 4, see what has changed, see which one I like the best. Okay, so let's try some in-depth, as it were, waterproof testing. So I also think the key with the GORE-TEX shoes is not to get the water level above the level of your shoes. So here at the moment, I'm just wading through this quite slowly, making sure that the water doesn't come above my feet, and I'm feeling completely dry at the moment. If I head over here, which is a bit deeper, see a nice flow of water there. And again, even if I submerge my toes in the water, nothing's getting through there. Now it's starting to get a bit deeper, and you can see there that I'm now almost to the point of putting my shoe straight over the sock liner, as it were. Let's see how we do. I think this is right on the edge of what I'm going to get away with. Still can't feel any water coming through yet, which is encouraging. Let's see if I can go right into there. Well, that's pretty impressive, isn't it? Because that is actually quite deep. Let's see if I go with the other foot now. And I think the white shoes really show up the actual water as well. So in that sense, I think I quite like them. I think if I do wade now a bit further, yeah, I'm going to get my socks wet now. That's the problem. And now I'm starting to feel the water coming through. So there's definitely a limit to these things, but you can't have a waterproof shoe above the level of the actual shoe. And now I'm feeling some water coming in, but I'm not on the right foot, interestingly. So you do get a few cars coming through the ford here. It's not too deep for cars. So let's have a look now at my socks after that total submersion. This left foot definitely feels a bit damp underfoot, but it's not too bad. And actually I can feel actually most of the water there has been absorbed by my sock, which is rather a thin one. So I think the actual shoe itself feels a bit damp underfoot, but not too bad. Certainly there's no like water there, sort of drainage, it's absorbed most of it. So yeah, compared to say a trail shoe where you're going to get your feet sort of totally sodden all the time, yeah, that is a big plus point, I'd say. Normally you would never actually volunteer to put your foot in that deep of water. I mean, that was basically a good 6 inches, wasn't it? I think another big difference this year, we've got the ReactX midsole, which is meant to be 13% sort of more responsive. I'm never quite sure what exactly that means, but I think the on-field feel is just slightly softer than the outgoing React model, which was nice and firm for a trail shoe, but you could argue it was a bit dead. I think this definitely has a bit more bounce to it. And I would say that the ReactX in this is actually a bit more springy than it is in the Pegasus 41 Standard Edition. I think Ed Bugg remarked on that when he was reviewing the Standard Trail 5 version earlier this year. But this version is basically all white, so I think it would be a very good sort of shoe for casual if you're into white shoes. The only sort of red bit here is this sort of GORE-TEX on the side, which when you're looking down, you don't even notice it. Whether people would notice that as you're walking by might be something to bear in mind. But I think I get a lot of comments on my previous videos, are these shoes good for casual? Well, a casual shoe is very much in terms of what you want in one. And I think this one, I do like the look of it. And I think certainly you would feel like in a sort of a plain colorway, all black or all white. I think there is an all black version in the States at the moment. So if you want an all black version, you may have to wait a bit longer for that to come to the UK. But if you live in the States, you can get that one already. At the moment on the Nike website, they've got like a pink version, which I thought was perhaps overkill at the time. They'd all sold out. And they've got more of a sort of a white one with a bit more red on it. So I thought this one, I might as well go for an all white version. What do you think? Do you think this is a good colourway choice? I mean, last year it was sort of black, but it wasn't quite all black. It had a lot of reflective bits. So you're kind of thinking, look at that big GORE-TEX on the side. You feel like they need to advertise it, don't they? So how does it actually feel on foot as a running shoe? Well, that's very good actually. I think definitely is a notable road to trail shoe. I did a couple of miles road running and I was actually feeling it was a very nice pace. One thing I would say, it had a very nice arch support now, which may be good for some people and may not be for others. I think with the glue down inside, you don't really have too much choice there. You either like that or you don't. But I certainly noticed at the moment with a bit of Achilles issues, that was very welcome. And it also felt like it was sort of wrapping around my heel quite nicely with the ReactX. It definitely feels slightly softer than the React, but not in a bad way. I think obviously with a trail shoe, you don't want too soft a shoes. I think that's kind of why I sort of struggled a bit with the Ultrafly and the Zagama. I just felt that the Zoom X in that was a bit too much. But in this, I think, especially I think this shoe would be an ideal sort of hybrid shoe for maybe walking and running and a bit of casual. So in that sense, it's far more versatile shoe than an out-and-out running shoe. And I think in previous videos, I've seen a lot of comments around, would this be a good shoe, a delivery driver or walking the dog, just be wearing casual? And I think yes to all those points. And is it waterproof? Well, as you've seen there, as long as you don't sort of like literally submerge your feet in 6 inches of water, then definitely yes. In terms of the weight differences, the version 5 is almost identical in my size to the version 4 last year. Both are about 370 grams. I think the drops in the version 4 and this version 5 are pretty much the same, the notional sort of 10mm drop that all Nike Pegasus shoes tend to be, which I think is very welcome for a hybrid type shoe. I much prefer those 10mm drops to those lower ones. Maybe if you've got an out-and-out trail shoe where you're only running on trails, then a lower drop would be advantageous. But if you're doing a bit of road, I find that high drop really good. I think the official drop is 37 at the front, 27.5 at the back for a 9.5mm drop, which is pretty much identical to what it was last year, within about a millimetre. Certainly between this model and the previous one, you're not going to notice any noticeable difference in the drop or the stack heights for sure. So let's do a comparison between the new version, the version 5 on the left and the version 4 on the right. Visually sort of fairly similar. The one noticeable difference here that you've got a really pronounced toe bumper now on the version 5, which is like obviously a lot better when you're actually doing some real trail running with potentially rocks, because you obviously don't want to sort of like get yourself a black toe or a fractured toe by slamming into a rock. Last year's one sort of like almost like had half a bumper. Slightly different sort of eyelate chain this time, but quite a fairly similar sort of wrap around feel. Get quite a nice lockdown on both. I would say that they fit sort of relatively sort of medium width. I mean, I've got very narrow feet, so you can see on this one I've even had to cut off the laces on last year's version. Haven't cut the laces obviously yet on this year's version, but obviously you can see they're a lot longer. This year they've got a glue down insole, whereas last year it was actually removable, which is kind of interesting, because you kind of think if you get any waterproof issues, then having a removable insole may be an advantage. But yeah, on the other hand, you might think that a glued down insole may actually give better water protection. If we look at the back here, we can see that the actual gaiter now is slightly lower than it used to be last year. It was quite high last year, which was quite nice, but maybe this year they've decided that's a bit overkill. You've got some reflective dots here at the back, and last year, because of the black one, the laces were very reflective. Not quite so obvious this year, but you can sort of see that there are some dots here. I'll have to get a picture in the dark to see whether that actually works. I do find that this year the upper is not folding quite as much, which is a good sign, or maybe the fact that I just haven't tied them up as much. And I do really feel that I think this bumper is actually helping the waterproofness. I did go into the water with the black ones on and did feel like it was slightly less protective. Maybe that's just because they're a bit old. Let's sort of look at the outsoles. Obviously the new version on the left here and the old version on the right. Slightly different pattern this year, much longer lugs this year. I think these shoes very much both meant to be sort of rail to trail shoes, and I've definitely had a very good response so far on the runs I've used them on the road. They're both standard Nike rubber, not the Vibram that you're seeing in the Ultrafly, and I think now there's a Zagama too. I think if you want an out and out trail shoe, those are probably the better bet. But if you want a shoe that you can do a bit of road and a bit of walking maybe with your dog, a bit of running when it's wet or muddy, then I think these will definitely be your best option. Far more versatile shoes, I think, than those out-and-out trail shoes. So is version 5 a better version than version 4? Well, I think it's very much an incremental update, and definitely for the better. I think the ReactX helps, just makes it feel slightly more springy, slightly more softer, but not in a bad way, and not too extreme like ZoomX. I think if you want that sort of squishy feel, then other shoes are available from Nike in that range. But this one, I think, definitely is a bit of a do-it-all trail shoe, come walking shoe, whatever you want it to be, even for casual, especially in the sort of like this colour or the black one if you're more into that. So is this a shoe that interests you? Are you going to pick up this one, or are you going to see if there's a version 4 at a discount? I think there is a version 4 at a discount. You're not going to go wrong there. If you look at my previous video, the waterproofing was pretty much the same, and you just might like the feel of that one a bit differently, or especially if it's a bit cheaper. But yeah, if you see this one on offer, then obviously you can get like a 15–10% discount from, say, sports shoes. I got this one directly from Nike UK for the full price. Sometimes in my size, UK 13, you just have to run with what you can get. But yeah, it's certainly a good value shoe, I think, in the general scheme of things. So I hope you found this interesting. Like and subscribe on that, and see you in the next one then. Bye.